11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think the winner won.
Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
Smile from Manny Pacquiao. Oh,
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me on archive. DStyleBoxing here. Make sure you check out the round table playlist on my playlist screen right there, and check out HCP podcast every Tuesday. That is 9 p.m. Eastern. And the round table every Thursday will be on Ringside Reporter this week. So make sure you check that out. Shout out to H Money, Mr. The Zone, Black and Brown Boxing, Jesus M, DJ Mexicano de Tejas. How's it going, my homies? What's going on, man? Check it out, okay? Check this out. I want to talk about pound for pound. I just watched a video by Haplotype 0. You guys could check that out if you want. Please check it out, in fact. And then I'll share this. Once I post this, I'll share the video on the description of this video. Just FYI. All that good stuff, right? This is a response to Haplotype and to Maestro A. So, check this out. Tony Boswell in the building. Showing support. Says, hit the like button. He is working and listening. Shout out to you, brother. Now, I don't really want to make this about who I have number one pound for pound and like all that. Like, this is more about what pound for pound is. Now, look, I have very small, my disagreements with Haplotype are honestly very small. Like, they're not that big of a disagreement. It's a disagreement, but it's not that big. With Maestro, ironically, we don't have much of a disagreement either. He just needs, there's an old saying, oh, teachers, they never learn, right? Maestro needs to sit back, relax, have a beer, and listen is what he needs to do. Like that's what he needs to do. No, but look, man. But I'm obviously doing the video because I think that there's some clarification that is needed. And it's needed very, very bad. Now, first in the chat, or if you're watching on archive, let me know what is pound for pound to you? What is it to you? What does it mean to you? Now, let me then state that me asking that question is actually a fallacy. It's actually wrong. You know why? Because it's not up to us, right, on what pound for pound is. You don't get to redefine it. All right? No, but I have a right. I have a right to do what I want. Like, yeah, you could be wrong about pound for pound all you want, sure. But you don't have a right to be correct. That's your right. You don't get to just redefine. Oh, to me, pound for pound means how many divisions you conquered. Oh, to me, what it means to me is, isn't that the problem in today's society? To me, it means just American fighters, because we know European fighters aren't that good. Like, that's not what it means. To me, pound for pound means that if you were in a bar and you fought to the death, who will come out the winner? Like, no, you don't get to redefine it. You don't get to just like make up your own definition for it. Now, I know, again, we live in an era where people just like to just, if they feel something, right, they like to be that something, but that's not the way the world works. Okay? Well, I feel that pound for pound means this. Well, I don't give a fuck. Pardon my French. I don't give a fuck what you feel. What you feel is irrelevant. Oh, but these style, what? I got a feeling. No, I don't give a fuck. Go sing the song. Go sing about how you got a feeling. Okay? Go do all that. Okay? Please. No, but these style, you don't understand. I have a right to feel what I feel. It's on my channel. I can say what I want. Like, it is true. You can say what you want. In fact, you know what? You can feel however you want to feel. But you don't get to redefine pound for pound. You don't get to redefine it. You don't get to make, like your own, like you can make whatever list you want about whatever you want, right? If to you pound for pound is about accomplishment, why don't you just make an accomplishment list? Oh, these are my top 10 most accomplished boxers today. Why don't you just make a list about that? Why do you have to like redefine what pound for pound means, which is eye test, which is assessing the fighters and their skill? That is what pound for pound is. And it is now where it does become subjective is who you put in pound for pound. But let me kind of give you guys a course on what pound for pound means, okay? Right now, if you go to Google, give it a shot, okay? If you go to Google and you put weight an ant can carry, an ant can carry anywhere from 10 to 50 times its body weight. 10 to 50 times its body weight. Okay? That means a pound, there's an ant that could weigh, like if they weigh 2 pounds, they can carry up to 200 pounds. That is amazing. Okay? So, well, we can accurately say, like, if I were to say, hey, is an ant stronger than you? Well, you're going to scoff. You're going to say, oh, an ant stronger than me? Look what I can do to you. I could kill the ant with my pinky. Look, right? And you're not incorrect in saying that. But if I were to say, no, an ant is stronger than you if we use the pound for pound method. Unless you could show me that you could carry or lift 50 pounds your body weight, then an ant is stronger than you in terms of pound for pound. Now, it's not, we use pound for pound is very similar, not the same, but very similar to other kind of ways we measure things like per capita, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Okay. So it's not the only thing in which we do that. All right. So I just to give you guys an understanding what we mean. Now in boxing, it's not as clear. Like for instance, with an ant, we already know. Okay, well it lifts 50 times more the weight. I definitely can't do that, right? Whatever. Like never in my wildest dreams could I lift 50 pounds. Forget 50, 10 pounds my body weight. Okay, like it's not going to happen. So with that said, what's going on to Lance Meyer, JC in the building now? Shout out to you guys. Hit my like button. And by all means, chime in. You know what I mean? So with that said, in boxing, of course, it's subjective, but we use subjectivity in boxing all the time, even when it's in the same weight class. When Valero and Manny Pacquiao were in the same division, till this day, we need to use subjectivity because they never fought. Right? Like if you were to say, like nobody's going to say, oh, that's ridiculous. How can we possibly know? Right? Well, it is true that we can't possibly know because they never fought. Right? But we can be subjective, right? And to a certain degree objective in our analysis to determine who would have won or who we feel more than likely would have won in a fight between Valero and Manny Pacquiao. They fought in the same era. They fought around the same time, around the same weight class. The fight just didn't happen. We do it all the time. Why can't we do it, okay, among fighters in different divisions, okay? Now, it does start to get, a little, of course, when you start comparing a flyweight to a heavyweight, because they're practically different sports. They fight different. They take punches differently. In one weight class, they're throwing 100 punches around. In another weight class, they only throw 10. But in one weight class, like there's more knockouts per capita per punches thrown rather than the other one. The knockout ratio is much higher than in the other one. There's more exchanges in the other weight class. I get all that, which is why I stay clear and away from lists. That's me. I don't do lists, guys. I don't do you'll never find me doing a top 10 pound for pound list. It's not going to happen. I just don't do it. I'm not going to debate with somebody about who's 5 and who's 7 and this guy's 8 and I just can't do it. Right? So that's me. But when I can easily assess, which is very easily for me, there are some cases that are extremely obvious. Extremely obvious. Like no one is going to only when the topic is pound for pound do people like to play semantics and get very technical with things. But just having a normal, casual conversation with somebody, right? Nobody in their right mind is going to just say, man, I rate Dillian White higher than Manny Pacquiao. Like nobody says that. Now, everybody knows Manny Pacquiao's a little dude that can't fuck with the heavyweight. Everybody knows that. It goes without saying. You're not a genius by pointing that out. But what we do know is that pound for pound, right? Manny Pacquiao is a better fighter than Dillian White. It starts to get murkier when you start getting to the elite fighters of every division, obviously. But there's in some cases that it's just obvious. All right? That's what it is. So at the end of the day, we need to acknowledge that, right? And now if you are incapable of agreeing that Manny Pacquiao is a better fighter than Dillian White if you use pound for pound logic, right? Then you're just not being genuine in the discourse. And I just got to be honest about that. You want to troll. You want to talk about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You want to talk about, okay, like I get what Maestro is doing. So before I get a haplotype, let me talk about Maestro first. Shout out to Maestro. Okay? Maestro believes that he owns the word better and that he has total control over it and that he could define when it can and cannot be used, right? So, like, for example, like nobody says that about anything else really, right? But in boxing, you can't say that Manny Pacquiao is a better fighter than Dillian White, right? Because he decided, he made the decision, because this is what he's doing. Let me explain to you, Maestro, what you're doing. you are stigmatizing pound for pound. That is your complete intent. Whether you're doing it intentionally or subconsciously, is what you're doing. You're stigmatizing the term. You're stigmatizing the word, right? You're making it sound cartoonish, right? And instead of taking people's genuine thoughts, like when I say Manny Pacquiao's a better fighter than Dillian White, I'm genuine about that, and I mean that. And every single person knows what the fuck I mean. Everybody knows the concept I'm using. Everybody knows that. Now, you want to stigmatize it? Cool. It's just not effective, though. It just isn't. You can talk about how it's not Ant-Man. We're just comparing skill. We're comparing ability. You don't need to change their size to do that, right? Like you can look at that and assess it for what it is, right? I'm just saying. So if you don't have the ability, now I've tried this exercise before, and they usually come around later on. They don't do it in the middle of the discussion because they just don't want to admit they're wrong. That's what it is, okay? But if I already have receipts on you, Maestro, where you call Inoue one of the best fighters in the sport, right? I already have receipts where you use language like this guy is one of the best, and by your definition that you couldn't possibly say that because they couldn't beat a heavyweight. So you already use the language I'm using. You've already been there before. It's just that right now you're caught up, okay, with this whole like debate thing, and you just don't want to be wrong. That's what it is. That's what it is, Maestro. How can it be one of the best if every heavyweight on the planet could beat him, Maestro? I guess he's ranked like, man, he would have to be ranked like 19,000th in the world to be one of the best, according to you. So everyone understands the following. All right, so let me explain to you what Maestro means. You know what I mean? So Maestro likes to state the obvious, right? That a heavyweight could beat a flyweight, for example, right? If you were to remove every weight class tomorrow is announced, you know what? No more weight classes in boxing. They are gone. That's it. No weight classes, ladies and gentlemen. None. What? Not even middleweight? Nothing. Oh, come on. You got to let minimum weight. Nope, nothing. Oh, you're not going to let the cruiserweight? No weight class. None. We're not even going to call heavyweight. We're just going to have the boxing champion. That's it. That's all we're going to have. But what do I weigh in at? Whatever the fuck you want to weigh in at. If you want to, where you are at your best, just come in fight night and everybody just fight each other. If you were to do that, and let's say we still have the same sanctioning bodies, but just for one weight class, Usyk and Tyson Fury would still be the two title holders today or tomorrow. That's just the empirical truth, right? The more than likely truth, right, is that Tyson Fury and Usyk would still be the two title holders in the sport of boxing. Now, everyone knows that. You're not a genius for knowing that. You're not a genius for pointing that out. It doesn't make you special just because you know that. All right? So, pound for pound, right? The intent of pound for pound is to grade these fighters amongst all the weight classes to determine who are the most skilled fighters in the sport. That's what it is. You could think that's ridiculous. You could think that's crazy, but it's a concept that's been used for a long time, and it's specific with boxing because boxing has weight classes. Tennis doesn't have weight classes. Okay, so unless your argument is we should get rid of the weight classes, I don't know what your point is. Football doesn't have weight classes. Basketball doesn't have weight classes. No other sport other than combat sports and weightlifting that I could think of off the top of my head have weight classes. Okay? Now, weightlifting, there is such a thing as pound for pound. They do it all the time. This guy is a pound for pound strongest man on the planet because he carries a certain percentage more than his other peers. That is a thing, right? We are able to measure that, and it's a lot easier to do it. Okay, with weightlifting. All right, so in other combat sports we do it all the time. We never hear this like we never hear only in boxing. I'll explain why. Right, boxing fans there's some anyway that get very like, what do you mean? He's not the heavyweight champion of the world. How could he possibly like? But another combat sport like in MMA, like you always hear them say things like George St. Pierre is the greatest pound for pound of all time. You'll always hear like John Jones, who's never fought a heavyweight, right? The best pound for pound. Anderson Silva is the best pound for pound MMA fighter of all time. They seem to understand the concept just fine. No, nobody says, yeah, but if you threw Anderson Silva in there with a lot of these heavyweights, he'd get crushed, though. Like, you're stating the obvious when you say that. You're not giving us any information we don't know. We know this. The Don says HCP is war. They got him. Shout out to Black and Brown Boxing. Shout out to Blood Boxing. The OG of all this shit. Right? Overused term now, but he is the one. But let's well, that's it. I get it. I don't like pound for pound. I think it's ridiculous. I want to ruin people's fun. I want to question people's ability to be subjective about how they assess skill in the sport. So I'm going to stigmatize it, and I'm going to make fun of the concept. And then hopefully by doing so, I can prevent people from ever utilizing it. But I'm going to wrongfully use pound for pound and say all the heavyweights are pound for pound the best, when that's the antithesis of pound for pound. That's not even what pound for pound means. If you want to say, I'm going to make the list of my top 10 best, I don't use pound for pound, then just say that. Don't say, to me, pound for pound is. And that's my only that's my only disagreement with Maestro. That he says, to me, pound for pound means the heavyweights are the best. Like, what? That's not what it means. All right? And you can't just make up what it means. Like, just say you don't like, just say this. I don't like the whole pound for pound concept. I think it's impossible to be, and then I think it's impossible to tell who would be who and what and different weight classes. So I don't even entertain it. I don't do pound for pound. I do most accomplished list. Just say that. Just say that. Like, you can't redefine it. Shout out to Maestro, though. My argument is that the quote-unquote the best boxer in the world is the heavyweight world champion. Pound for pound should just be based on accomplishment, not Ant-Man logic or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He abbreviated it. Like, that's crazy. We've got it to the point where Honey, I Shrunk the Kids has been abbreviated, ladies and gentlemen. That's how normal. That's a sign that it's being normalized. This is what, to Maestro, the best means the heavyweight world champion. But the boxing culture, as we know it today, does not define the best that way. That's how Maestro defines the best. Okay? Because, no one says pound for pound with regular people. Okay? So this one's going to answer the question that Black and Brown has. What does pound for pound mean exactly, right? So, as I said earlier, right, if you take the ant up, an ant is pound for pound stronger than us, right? Because it can lift 10 to 50 pounds 10 to 50 times more his body weight than us as humans, right? That's what pound for pound means. Only in boxing, we're grading skill level. That's what we're grading, right? So you're using the eye test and you're saying to yourself, who are the most skilled boxers in the world? Well, using your eye test. It is subjective, okay? And it is comparing boxers across different weight classes using that. That's what it means, right? Now, according to Maestro, it's ridiculous to say that an ant is stronger than us, right? Using the pound for pound concept, because I could just squash an ant by stepping on it. Like that's basically what Maestro says when he says, well, Dillian White, he could beat up Manny Pacquiao. So to say, like, everyone knows, like, so Black and Brown. Let me ask the question to Black and Brown, okay? Black and Brown. If somebody were to ask you out in the street somewhere, like, they know you're the boxing guy, they find out you like boxing. Like, oh, you got a boxing channel, bro? Oh, shit. Hey, bro, name me the three best fighters in boxing, Black and Brown, so I could go watch them. Give me the three best motherfuckers that could fucking fight. I'm going to watch those dudes. What would you say? I want to know what Black and Brown would tell that person. What names would you give me? The three names you would give that person. Genuinely give them. Boxing Wave and Ability says, on the road, listening to some good boxing talk. Everybody subscribe to Boxing Wave. I'm hoping to, go on his channel one day, man. Join him on one of his, fire live streams and talk some boxing. So, looking forward to it. You know what I mean? I owe him a couple. So, want to jump on there. Shout out to G fucking Boxing. Says hashtag HCP. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. Black and Brown, you just used pound for pound logic, right? You didn't call it pound for pound. They didn't ask you for pound, but you used pound for pound to give them those three fighters: Usyk, Canelo, Inoue. That's like, it just goes without saying. The current boxing culture uses pound for pound logic to determine who's the best in the sport. Like, we know Canelo, right? Look, the only people that keep Canelo off the list are the ones that say things like, oh, he cheated, so I'm not going to have him on there. He thugs people. Like, those are the only people that keep Canelo off the list, right? But most people have him hovering around 1 to 4. Like, Canelo's somewhere around there, right? So, like, we all know he's one of the best fighters in the sport. Objectively speaking, we could look at him and we could say, yeah, that's one of the best fighters in the sport. We just know he is, right? In a way, we just look at him and we know that's one of the best fighters in boxing. Nobody says, well, I don't think Inoue is a shit. Unless I see Inoue beat up a heavyweight, I ain't going to call him one of the best. Like, nobody says that. Nobody. In fact, when no one's talking pound for pound, when the term isn't around, right? People use pound for pound concept all the time. All the time. So now Maestro says best is not the same as most skilled, talented, excited, etc. DStyle, and you know it. It's all big man hating. He's like, I do not have, believe me, what's the term for it? Goliath syndrome. I don't have it. Like, I don't just hate on Goliath. All right. All I'm saying, you know what I mean, is because accomplishments, whether you like to admit it or not, guys, you cannot accomplish great things unless you have the skill set to do it. Unless you're good. Okay? You're not going to go from 154, 160, 168, almost become undisputed at 168. Yes, those are accomplishments. Knock out a dude at 175. You're not going to do that unless you're good, unless you're skilled. So it's a cop-out to say, oh, it's about accomplishment. No, well, you can't accomplish those things unless you're good, unless you have skill. It all encompasses the same thing. All right? So that's what pound for pound is. With that said, let me respond to Haplotype. Giant phobia. I don't have giant phobia at all. Right? But look, check it out. I want to say this. I want to. By the way, shout out to Maestro, by the way. Butterbean can beat up Manny Pacquiao, right? You would think. Big, fat, lard. But is Butterbean a better fighter than Manny Pacquiao? Well, I guess we've got it to the point where now I have Maestro playing semantics with words, right? Well, that's not what better means. Like, what do you mean? Like better can mean anything. Okay? Because we use a pound for pound concept nowadays. Right? Like when I was 10 years old and I was being told, man, Whitaker's the best pound for pound boxer in the world, like I know what they meant. I knew then what it meant. I have a hard time believing that a grown-ass man today can't possibly know what that means. You know what I mean? But let me respond to Haplotype. Haplotype did a video. Man, I hate to do this to him, but I got to do it. You know what I mean? I got to do it. I got to do it, right? You see, now the truth comes out. Maestro got tired of little dudes in the basketball court telling him that if they were 6'4", they could beat him. And he's like, well, you're not, so ha-ha. Like, now, so this is about frustration at the basketball court. That's what this is, right? And he's bringing the shit into boxing. He's letting the little dudes that he played. So Maestro has just exposed himself. This dude was going to the basketball courts in New York. He went to the side of town with little short dudes, played them, started dunking it on them, right? Instead of finding, like, I'm pretty sure the 6'4" dudes playing basketball in New York somewhere, right? But no, Maestro had to go dunk it on all the little dudes, right? And he got frustrated when they kept telling, man, well, why you go play with those dudes over there on the other side of town? Nah, I'm right here. Like, you know what I mean? I'm the man. I'm the best. Like, you know what I mean? So now I know where this stems from, right? At the end of the day, okay? Now I know. Stop dunking it on dudes, okay? Remember, he was talking about middle school. Like, stop dunking on the middle school kids, Maestro, and go, go play against a grown ass man, please. Thank you. All right, I'm just saying. Come on, Maestro. Like, what's going on over here? So with that said, let's talk about Haplotype. So, Haplo. Let me start off by, first of all, let me say this. So, I actually went back and I listened to the uncensored video, right? In the middle, making a point, I did say something that's inaccurate, right? So let me first correct my inaccuracy, right? And it is true that a lot of people say this. This goes without saying, right? Now, I have videos from the past where I clarify this, so shame on me for even suggesting it. But it's not a big deal, right? But there is a misconception that pound for pound was originated, like in terms of it was like literally created in thin air simply for Sugar Ray Robinson, right? Now, there's a grain of truth to that, but it's not an actual fact, right? Benny Leonard, right, was called pound for pound. Plenty of the term pound for pound was used before Sugar Ray Robinson. But what I will say is that there was a culture shift, right? When Sugar Ray Robinson was the reigning pound for pound best boxer in the world, when Muhammad Ali came out and said, you know what? I'm the best heavyweight. But pound for pound, Sugar Ray Robinson is the best. That's a great Muhammad Ali saying that. Like, he gave that dude his props. He said, I looked at him and I said, yeah, that dude, that's that dude. You know what I mean? So there was a culture shift. That's undeniable, right? Now, any culture shift doesn't happen. It's just like boom, and a snap of a finger, it just shifts, right? But how people perceived other weight classes slowly started to change, right? It is true that heavyweights were in pound for pound lists more, especially early, than they were later on, right? But there's a reason for that. Okay, I'll touch on that in a little bit, but without before the pound for pound concept was now part of boxing's culture, meaning black and brown can go talk to somebody and be like, yo, the best fight in the sport. I mean, man, there's Usyk, there's Canelo, there's Inoue, right? He's not talking about the top 5 heavyweights, automatically as some type of grade for who's the best in the sport that they should follow, etc., right? So let's just make sure we understand that, right? So I just wanted to kind of clarify that a little bit, but well, Bert isn't, again, it's just, if he did say that, it's not correct, because the pound for pound term had been used prior to Robinson, but there was never it was never like when Robinson was named the best pound for pound, and that's how the boxing writers and scribes and his peers were calling him. Okay, there was a culture shift in how we talked about the best, and now there's dudes like Maestro that are mad about that, but it is what it is. Okay, but like that is undeniable, right? But let's use some of Haplotype's examples, right? Haplotype said that they brought up pound for pound to compare Sugar Ray Robinson to Joe Louis. So why would they bring up Joe Louis out of all the fighters that ever existed at that point? Because even at that point, boxing already had a rich history. Why Joe Louis? Because for a long time, Joe Louis was considered the best boxer that ever lived. By many scribes, by many pundits, that's what Joe Louis was considered, right? Not by all, right? But another reason is because, again, I'm pretty sure other scribes and people had other fighters as the best, but Joe Louis was also a very recognizable name, because at that time, just the thought of calling somebody the best or one of the best without them being a heavyweight wasn't really a thing. Okay? Now, you could say all you want, no, there was a lot of respect. I'm not saying there wasn't any respect or something for the lighter weight classes. There's still some disrespect for them till this day, actually. But I'll touch on that a little bit. Haplotype, you said that they did a comparison and they came out saying Sugar Ray Robinson was better than Joe Louis pound for pound. And he said, well, but by definition, that means that Joe Louis was number 2, since he was the one that was being compared to Sugar Ray Robinson. No, you cannot rank some, like, I guess he's number 2 of a list of 2, if that's your argument, right? So yeah, he was number 2 in a list of 2 people. That's like saying, like, oh yeah, that guy is the world's tallest midget, right? Like, what does that even mean? Like, at the end of the day, saying like that's just not true. Like, that just means he was number 2 in a list of 2. That's all you're saying. Okay? With all due respect, that's all you're saying. It doesn't all automatically mean, yeah, well, they put Joe Louis number 2. No, that's not what it means. That's not what it means at all. Shout out to Nando Llamas. So whoever had the first pound for pound opinion in history gets to define it. Well, yes, if it well, first of all, what does pound for pound mean to you? Pound for pound is a concept. It's a pretty clear concept. Like, are we going to say, no, well, pound for pound to me means who's the most exciting fighter? Well, that's not what it means. Right? So anyway, I just felt like that was like kind of funny to me, right? Like, oh, checkmate. You can't put heavyweights on the list, like, because Joe Louis was compared to Ray Robinson. Well, at that time, it would make sense that they would compare him to a heavyweight. When boxing was first televised, it started televising for the most part a vast majority of heavyweight fights. It didn't even televise like Ray Robinson's welterweight career, but they televised all the heavyweight title fights. What does that tell you? We have a better record of the heavyweights than we do of the other weight classes. It's not even close. Why? Because there was more respect for the heavyweights, right? Why would guys, always challenge the heavyweight champion if they were from other weight classes? Because they wanted to be known as the best. Well, once the pound for pound concept came along, that didn't really become very necessary. There was a culture shift in the way we see fighters, right? Didn't come without resistance. We still see the resistance today, right? Another one was, that there was an article somewhere, if I understood correctly, that where James J. Jeffries, right, was called the best pound for pound fighter that ever lived. Okay. James J. Jeffries, right, did not fight at a time where we had multiple weight classes like that. The light heavyweight weight class didn't even exist. Most of the weight classes didn't exist. I think we had middleweight, lightweight, and like maybe welterweight. I mean, I haven't looked it up, but like I think we had maybe 4 weight classes. Maybe, and the weight classes were not they were not perceived the same way as we perceive them today. They just weren't. Now we have sayings when we grow up, right? And a lot of analogies, right? A lot of analogies are tied to boxing. So one of them, for example, is like, man, when you get knocked down, it's not about how many times you get knocked down; it's how you get it back up. And you know what I mean? Like that's an analogy tied to boxing, right? Man, when your back's against the ropes, that's when you got to overcome things. That's an analogy tied to boxing. Okay, like we have a lot of analogies, right? One that is used about boxing, that is tied to boxing anyway, and it's actually a one that's meant to be demeaning. And that's when, like, for example, I go out, I'm drinking with my friends. One of them isn't handling the alcohol very well. He's had like 2 beers and he's already sounding buzzed. And what do people say? Man, you're a lightweight, bro. You're a lightweight. You're at a job that's manual labor. One guy can't keep up. Man, this dude's a lightweight. Right? Like that's a demeaning term. That means less than. It means not strong enough. It means, like that's what it means. Can't handle it. That's what calling somebody a lightweight means. That comes from the way people perceived the lightweights at one point. At one point, lightweights were seen as these little dudes, and I'm not saying there was never a lightweight that people didn't appreciate, and all. Of course, a lot of boxing fans appreciated skill; they always have, right? But nobody would ever dare say, "Oh, that lightweight is the best in the world." It was very rare. Nowadays, people put lightweights and pound for pound lists like it's nothing, right? So what has the pound for pound concept done for us, right? It has allowed us to appreciate all weight classes. That's what it's done. That's what pound for pound has done. Right? Now the question is, can you put heavyweights on a pound for pound list? Look, you could do what you want. It's not like a fallacy, or it's not wrong to put a heavyweight on a pound for pound list. Okay? You could still use the pound for pound concept and have a heavyweight in it. But I don't put heavyweights on the pound for pound list because of what I said earlier. If you were to remove all the weight classes, the heavyweight would still be the man. We already, and this is where I agree with Maestro. Of course, we already know if we use the law of, right? The law of the jungle, if you want to call it that, we know the heavyweight champion of the world is the best. But if we use the, if we use pound for pound concept, it's a little different. And we have a lot of weight classes to assess, right? And me, I personally keep heavyweights out of there, not because you can't rate them. You could do what you want. But because we already have an understanding of what the heavyweight champion is and what they mean. Like we already know that, right? And that's my little small kind of issue with that. Okay. So with that said, Haplotype wants to jump on, so let me just throw him a link. Maestro could come on too, by the way, if he wants. You know what I mean? Maestro, hey, you want to jump on? This is not for everybody, by the way. You can stay backstage for all I care, but this is for Haplotype. And that's about it. You know what I mean? But I'm waiting for Haplotype. So, in case you're like, why is it so quiet? Now, back to James Jeffries. Look, James Jeffries was the heavyweight champion of the world when there wasn't a lot of sports in the United States or in the world for that matter, like we have today. Being the heavyweight champion of the world was the greatest prize. It was an identity. It meant everything, right? They didn't even want to let black dudes fight for the title. Okay, like it was an identity thing. So it's not shocking to me that they would call James Jeffries the greatest to ever live, and he's pound for pound. He's even better than the little guys, and that's not shocking to me at all. Haplotype says trying to connect. Okay. There you go. What up?
What's going on? What's going on? Hey, I missed I just tuned in just a few seconds ago, so I got to go back and listen to what you were saying.
Sure.
But I wanted to come on and just give any answers that you might have or questions that you might have answers as far as how I think about it.
One of my I guess one of my things was this, right? So you said that they compared Joe Louis to Ray Robinson, right?
Yeah.
And it was, comparing them pound for pound, who's better, right? And Robinson came out on top, and he was considered best pound for pound.
Well, by
Although
some people, other people thought
subjective,
Joe Louis was the best. Yeah.
Yeah, but culturally, like who won the culture war was Robinson. Till this day, people kind of name him. You know what I mean? But for the most part, nothing's absolute.
Back then, it was pretty close. Some people were like, nah,
yeah,
Joe Louis.
I get it. But here's the thing, right? It was a list of 2 people, and you said, well, that means Joe Louis is number 2.
Well, who else did they compare him to pound for pound?
Well, there's only 2 people.
Right, exactly.
So of course, yes, he is number 2 on a list of 2.
Right, exactly. But he's still considered pound for pound.
Yeah, but he was 2 in a list of 2.
In some people's minds, in other people's minds, Joe Louis was number 1.
Right. Well, let me try something really quick. Let me.
I don't want to debate right now because
no, I get it, but I'm actually saying I'm doing something. Hold on. Okay. So let me cover the screen. Here we go. Is that you? Get the smoke? Oh, it didn't work, buddy. It didn't work. I'm too fucking smart for you, buddy. You know what I mean? Is that you, G-Funky?
Damn right, it's me. What's going on, guys? Can you hear me?
That's right.
What's up?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
And that's how you handle the trolls, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you handle them. Okay?
Got a little late start, man. I'm just sipping my coffee right now, but I wanted to chime in real quickly, man.
Me too. I just woke up and I
already did a lot of talking, so go ahead, guys.
I'll just say this, man. I saw your video, Haplo, man. I thought it was a good video.
Thank you.
Everybody check that thing out, man. Matter of fact, when I get off here, I'll go ahead and share it in my community so that my subscribers can check that thing out. I love talks like this. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, no sweat, man. I like these kind of conversations. A lot of philosophies involved. There's a lot of history as well. But I just want to chime in on something that DStyle said right around when I first came in, because I didn't come in at the beginning as well. But you said that I think you made a great point where you said that culture changes happen in boxing. Yeah. And I agree 100% with that, man. There's always going to be one athlete that comes in and changes the game and changes the way that we rank them and rank other fighters and other athletes in other sports. It happens all the time, man. I mean, look at a lot of people consider I'm gonna go to another sport. A lot of people consider Michael Jordan to be the best to ever play. Some old school, older guys would say, well, I think Kareem, and some might say, well, I think Wilt. Some might say, I think
I was just about
Bill
to say
Russell,
Kareem.
A lot of people will disagree with that, although I think a majority will say Michael Jordan. But things changed, man, over the time, the way that they rank players. Now, I know back when Wilt and Russell were doing their thing in the 50s and the 60s, people always gave the upper hand to Russell simply because his team was winning championships, as where a guy like Wilt was just flat out dominating the game. He was putting up like 50 points, getting like 20 to 30 rebounds, as where Russell was winning, So they gave it to him because of his winning. As time went on, it changed a little bit. Like when a guy like Jordan came along, he was putting up great individual numbers, and then the writers were saying, yeah, he might be able to lead the league in scoring 7 times in a row, but he ain't winning championships like Bird and them. Like everything always changes when some guy comes in and revolutionizes the game. And I think that's where a guy like Ray Robinson kind of comes in, and like the reason why I always use that Ray Robinson analogy is because that's the way I was taught. I was taught by a few gentlemen who aren't even here anymore. They were around during those times. And, they're the ones that told me that, Sugar Ray Robinson was the guy. He was the pound for pound champion, as where Joe Louis was the heavyweight champ. And, that's how I go. And I know everybody, I'm not a historian. I'm not going to claim to be a historian. I'm just going off of what the OGs told me. You know what I'm saying? Nah, that's pretty much all I really wanted to say. I'm going to go ahead and let these Haplotype and Milcar go ahead and jump in.
What's up,
Milcar? Why are you dunking it on like short dudes over there? What's going on, brother?
No, I mean, look, this has been a common theme since You were right. I mean, since middle school. Oh, if I was as big as you, you're not as big as me, fam. So just deal with it. You know. Every
I don't
time
know. I don't know why
my
such an
favorite,
intelligent guy, Maestro, can't wrap his mind around a fantasy concept. It's a fantasy.
look,
No
it's
one's saying it isn't.
mythology.
It is.
No, it is
I agree with
fantasy.
you.
I'm
It
just,
is. Yeah.
I'm just saying
Yes.
that once you turn it into this guy wouldn't beat this guy in a fight if it weren't
I didn't
for
say
his size. I mean that's that. I'm not saying you Haplotype. I'm not even saying
Maestro,
D
look,
style.
really quick,
Okay.
really
I'm just
quick.
talking about what
All right.
I hear typically from boxing people. The best fighter, the best. This guy's the best. It's like, okay, D style said it as well. It's the eye test. I don't rate eye tests. So if I'm going to go off anything, it's going to be off something objective.
Well, you
How
do
many
it like
wins?
this. You do it
How
all
many
the time when you break
losses?
down fights.
What?
You do it all the time.
Yeah, when you're breaking
did
down.
you not use your eye
Yes, when you're
test
breaking down.
to predict Fury to beat
When you're
Wilder?
hold up, there's a train crossing. Hold up.
All right.
You do it when you're talking
about my
about.
words. That's fine. Go ahead.
You do it when you're talking about guys in a real fight that are about to fight each other. My issue is when people start doing it for fights that will never exist, that will never happen. A lightweight isn't going to face off against Canelo. He's not.
I understand that,
saying,
Emil, but
this guy's
that's
a
the
better
whole
fighter.
point. That's the whole point of pound for pound, though.
Like Maestro, you have a right to say
maybe
you
my
don't
issue
like
is just
pound
with
for pound.
I don't like pound for pound. I'm clear
Just
on
say
that.
you don't like pound
I don't
for
like
pound.
it.
But you can't read the
I
fight.
don't like pound for pound.
What you're talking about, if I can make a quick point, this is what I wanted to say when I came on. There used to be this thing called the top 10 in boxing magazines. That was a different list than pound for pound, and that was accomplishment based. So maybe we should resurrect that and do a top 10 based on accomplishments, because that's sort of what you're talking about, sir. Pound for pound is a fantasy.
That is what I'm talking about.
Yes, that's the
top 10. That is what
10.
I'm talking about.
That's not pound for pound, though. That's top 10.
Well, maybe D-Style's right. My issues with pound for pound itself. Hold up.
I think it is.
Okay, I think Maestro froze up there a little bit, but
and my connection.
No, I'm not
sucks.
frozen. I'm in a bike shop and I'm getting my bike fixed. But I'm listening.
Gotcha. All right. So I guess it's one of those things, right? It's kind of like if I wore like a weird colored T-shirt and I'm wearing it because I like it, and they say, "Ha ha, that's a crappy ass shirt." Well, why are you wearing that shirt? That's a fucking. You look weird in that shirt. Well, my response would be, well, because I want to wear the shirt. I like the shirt, right? So when it comes to pound for pound, essentially what I'm hearing is, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, how can you possibly think these things? It's fake. It's fantasy, right? But the insult you're throwing its way is literally what it is. It's literally what it's meant to be. It's like you can't insult pound for pound. Like calling it fake, like imaginary, is not an insult because that's what it is. In other words,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I'm into more of the top 10 thing than the pound for pound. That's why I've never even made a pound.
We should bring that back, man. We should bring that back because I agree. It is better to go off accomplishments, but pound for pound is meant as what D-Style just said. He put it perfectly. That's what it's meant for. It's supposed to be. But
not only that, right? I mean, isn't it true that in order for you to accomplish things in boxing, you have to be good. You have to be skilled. You have to right. Like the accomplishments are tied to how good you are.
Along with being good, yes, it comes along with being a great fighter. Accomplishments come along with it, but that's not what pound for pound is based on. It's pure fantasy.
Yeah, that's why I always get a lot of shit for having Terrence Crawford top 3 because, people obviously will look at his resume and say, oh, well, he hasn't really beat anybody that good, but look what he's accomplished, man. He's a 3-division world champion. He's a 2-time lineal. He's undisputed,
if you think he's good enough, if he were, the same size as Canelo, if you think he could beat Canelo, then you can rank him above Canelo. That's up to you.
I just
as a
don't
person.
like, for example, like how do we know? Like when someone says the following, right? Man, Whitaker, man, he had one of the best defenses ever, right? Nobody ever says, but if he fought a heavyweight, he would just smash through his defense. Just fucking, even if he blocked it, he'll knock him out. Like nobody says these things, right? Like we just know what people mean, and like it's just one of those things that we just know he was a great defensive fighter. And when I was 10 years old and they said, "Oh, Whitaker is the best pound for pound boxer," in the world, like I knew what people meant by that. It wasn't that complicated to me then, and it's not that complicated to me now. It does get complicated, I'll admit, once people start making top 10 pound for pound lists, right? Like at that point, okay, you guys are debating who's 7 and who's 8, and like you've already left the realm of like the top dudes in their divisions, and you're already talking about guys that are not even like top of their division, and you're trying to rate them all amongst each other. Like me, it's simple. It's just look, just ask yourself, who is the best boxer on the planet? That's all you have to ask yourself. Leave pound for pound out of it. Leave anything else out of it. Most people are going to use a pound for pound concept to come up with an answer.
Yep.
Everyone does it.
Right.
Like we all do it. You know what I mean? Now, I do want to say this really quick. So whoever it is, right? I don't even know why I'm addressing it, but I'm going to address it. Okay. I saw it coming. So it is what it is. But whoever's going around showing dick pics, right, on random live streams. Okay. I know you probably think you're funny. You probably have like a group of friends you go with and whoa, we shot the dick pic. Like at the end of the day, you took the time to Google dick pics. You took the time to upload a dick pic to your phone. And he took the time to upload it again on StreamYard in order to, quote unquote, trick people into thinking they're get this smoke and they're not going to switch it up. They're going to do a switcheroo and, I got you with a dick pic. That's so funny. Like, I know you think it's funny, and I know you're probably cracking up at yourself, okay? But just literally go over everything I just said, step by step, everything you did. You, on your phone, you didn't look for naked women. You didn't look for boobies. Okay, you didn't do any of that. You looked for dick pics. Okay, and you uploaded it on your phone. Like it exists on your phone. Okay, like please analyze yourself. Go over it, please. Just go over it. All right, just like go over it step by step. What you did. It might be funny, but they don't know who I am. But you know who you are, though. You start to wake up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror, and know that you're the dude that uploaded, that went to Google, and you typed down dick pic, okay, or dick, or big dick, or whatever the fuck you Googled, and then you uploaded it to your cell phone. So that's what I wanted to say.
There's no shame in therapy. All right, that's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, to each their own. But I know you think you're owning guys out here for doing that, but just go step by step on what you did. But anyway, that's pound for pound some of the dumbest shit I ever seen. Right? But anyway,
some of the weirdest.
Way to bring it back around.
Yeah, so I get because even if you say accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
The reason I don't die on the hill of accomplishments is because like Manny Pacquiao just recently retired, but I didn't have him as the pound for pound best, even though he had the best resume by the time he retired.
Well, he might have been number one on the top 10 in terms of accomplishments.
Possible, yeah. Most accomplished fighter at the time, yeah. I like the accomplishments argument, man. I always use that in other sports.
I think we should do a top 10. I'm not saying right now, but we should do a top 10. Why not? Let's bring that back, because
a top 10 of what do you mean?
I don't like a top 10 based on accomplishments.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's different than pound for pound.
But then, in other words, here's where pound for pound comes in anyway, right? Like in Manny Pacquiao's case, okay. let's just say someone uses like, 'cause there's people that say they use accomplishment, but they really don't. Like, because they're saying, "Oh, I go by their accomplishments," but what they really mean to say is, and I mean the people that say that they use accomplishment for pound. What they really mean to say is, I'm going by their most recent, "What have you done for me lately?" accomplishments, right? But by definition, what they lately accomplish is based off their abilities and their skill. Okay. Or else they wouldn't have accomplished those things. If Josh Taylor wasn't good, he wouldn't have beat Jose Ramirez. Like, he had to be better than Jose Ramirez in order to beat Jose Ramirez and become undisputed. He had to be good to compete with Prograis and beat him for that title prior, right? So he had to be good to beat, Postal, right? So you cannot accomplish these things unless you're good. Canelo cannot accomplish what he accomplished if he wasn't good, right? You have to be good in order to accomplish things. But for people that say, "Well, I use accomplishments," well, you really don't, because I don't know anyone who had Manny Pacquiao number one pound for pound based off of accomplishments. Okay, because
and they should have if they go by accomplishments, like career accomplishments.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to. You'd have. I mean, who would you put up against him right now? I mean, if he was still active, he would have to be number one on that list. But he's moved on to, on from boxing, and he's going to go ahead and run for president. And but yeah, I think you would have to put him number one if he was still there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always use the accomplishment list, especially. I think it's I think honestly, it's the most fair way to do it, and just my opinion,
Yeah, but if you're making a pound for pound list, it would have to be based off of the most recent accomplishment. It can't be like what you did back in 2006,
Yeah, no, that's true too.
So that's how guys fall off. But but by definition, and this is why, like, if it makes sense if it's "What have you done for me lately?" right, accomplishment wise, because you cannot accomplish those great things unless you're a great skilled fighter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because people could be biased, like they could be biased as fuck when it comes to eye test. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, guys are being. I mean, just look at the way they talk about some of these young fighters who haven't fought anybody. Like, oh my god, it's the most amazing fighter I've ever seen. It's like, well, who's he beat that's any good? Like that's still to be determined.
Yeah, and it goes back down to as Haplotype likes to say, the halo effect, right? So guys that haven't accomplished much, that have fought really relative nobodies, guys we don't know how to rate. Because there's fighters like that, fighters that have like this X factor of like, okay, he looks the part, but how's he going to look when he steps up in competition? I don't know yet.
Yeah, like
right?
Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz. Those are some that I hear a lot. Like,
oh yeah,
hey, if you think he could beat, whoever's the best pound for pound for other people, then you rank him number one. I mean, that's your prerogative. I look, for me, I think people are conflating the top 10 and the pound for pound because the magazines are no longer doing the top 10, and people are now conflating the two by going by accomplishments for pound. No, that's the top 10, and pound for pound is pure opinion.
Yeah, right. Somewhere along the line it changed, and like that's why I always use the NBA analogy, because for years and years it was always the best players are the best players on the best teams, and then when you get a guy.
G-Funky, even in your analogy with comparing basketball players, you're comparing centers to forwards and guards and everything.
Shooting guards,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, size. Of course, if Kareem played against Allen Iverson one-on-one, he'd be swatting everything. He'd be, Iverson would have a hard time, beating a Kareem.
Yeah, it'd be one of those things where the rules would matter, like is it a make and take, or is it loser out? Like, because I think if Iverson gets the ball against a guy like Kareem, he might not be able to stay in front of him. Like be too fast.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Like De La Hoya beat Shaq in a boxing match. So I mean, Like,
Yeah.
so, I mean, you never know. And then I've heard like people say like, well, it's not fair because the heavyweights are slower, and like I'm like, no, there have been fast heavyweights. I mean, Tyson, Usyk.
Usyk's not that slow.
No, he's not slow at all.
No.
Oh, by the way, I want to actually, if you guys don't mind,
yeah,
I want to talk about this. And I didn't really look. I don't like to come off as bashing current day boxing. I don't. I like to, uplift the sport, and I respect all the guys that are fighters today, right? But I mean, boxing, there's a high bar, like there's a high standard when you compare it historically. It just is, right? So it's no offense to the fighters today. It just means that I got to compare you to this great historic sport. Like, I don't know about you guys, but there's one satisfying thing I did get from Usyk beating Joshua, and the way he beat him, by outboxing him, outmaneuvering him, using his speed, angles, right? The one satisfying thing I did get, and it was nothing against Joshua, but man, I got sick and tired of hearing people say, like, oh, these guys will be too big for Muhammad Ali. They would overpower him, and he just wouldn't be able to keep up. And, like, let me tell you something, man. I saw Usyk, like, it looked to me, he could still have gone another 4 or 5 rounds. And Joshua looked like he had nothing left at the end of that fight.
Yeah, he was gone.
Right? He couldn't keep up with the foot speed of Usyk and his hand speed. I just want to ask you guys, like, what does that like to me? I'll admit it does give me some like confirmation bias now. Like, it gives me confirmation that Joshua couldn't fuck with a Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just gives me that confirmation. Like, that he just fought a guy the same height, the same size as Muhammad Ali, and he couldn't keep up with him. That's the truth.
Yeah. And I think we could agree Ali's
Muhammad Ali would have styled all over AJ.
Yeah, it would have been embarrassing.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali would have styled all over AJ. It would have looked worse than the Cleveland Williams fight. AJ was standing in one spot, basically just pivoting. Like, Muhammad Ali would have been, man, giving him hell, bro. I mean,
yeah,
maybe even worse than Usyk. Probably
and that Williams
worse
fight.
Usyk.
That Williams fight for me is like one of my favorites to go back and watch of Ali. Like, he was just unbelievable in that fight. He was unbelievable in that one. That's the Ali I would put against anybody. Like, if we were to do like these fantasy matches, like, well, which Ali would you take and put him against? Like, I don't know. I guess a Mike Tyson,
the one I always
or Lennox Lewis.
Yeah,
that's the one right there. Yeah,
I take that Ali and the Tyson who fought Spinks.
Like, even Tyson, is he his podcast? He was like, man, I'm confident I could have taken these guys now. Like, after he saw that, like if he had any doubts, now he's like, I don't know. I think I could have taken them. And now, like I was confident in them, and now I'm really confident,
It's just
Tyson would have beaten AJ even now.
Yeah, I think so too. But I got to roll, man. I just want to jump in real quickly. I had a little bit of time. Good to talk to you guys, and I'll be listening from the chat, man. But you guys have a good one, man.
Yeah, man, for
All
sure.
right, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the way, look, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying this to say AJ sucks. I'm just saying that there's levels to this, and these guys, these modern day heavyweights, just being bigger doesn't automatically mean they would have beaten the guys of the past. Like, it doesn't mean that. And one more thing,
I'm saying Tyson now would have beaten that AJ had he fought that same way that he fought against Usyk. I think Tyson maybe would have beaten him in that fight, but I think AJ's like confidence went out the window after that Ruiz loss.
Ruiz fight, yeah, man, and that's just the way that is. Another thing is, like, shout out to Usyk, that he didn't buy into the whole, like, there was people actively telling him to, like, oh, don't fight these big guys. There's a new weight class, bridger weight. Fight in this weight class instead. And he's like, nah, like, I want to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Like, like, that's what I want to be. And he went for it.
He has a chance to be undisputed. That would be incredible, dude. I can't wait to see what happens after tonight, man.
So we saw
take the rematch.
And AJ is one of the best, bro. Like, there's so many heavyweights that are in such horrible shape that I don't think they would last 5 rounds with Usyk at this point. Like
Mhm.
his stamina and his volume is not of a typical heavyweight today. Notice I said today. Like it just isn't.
Right.
You know, and I
Right.
think
It
the
isn't.
Chisora fight was just kind of him dipping his toe in the water. He didn't know how he could take a heavyweight punch, but I think once he took a couple of punches from Chisora, late in that fight, he kind of pressed on the gas pedal. He hurt Chisora late. Chisora came out and said, "Man, those are some of the hardest punches I ever got hit with." So I just think that was an outlier,
Well,
and I think
on the same note, though, I was pretty impressed in that first Fury Wilder fight, how Fury was able to maintain all that movement throughout the entire fight. Man,
right.
I mean, I expected him the way he was jerking and herking and like fainting and twitching and moving around. I thought he was going to get tired, but by the end of the fight, he was still doing it. So
Right.
he has good stamina too when he's in shape. For him, I mean, he never looks like he's in shape, but
Yeah.
he impressed me there too. So that would be
Yeah.
interesting. Those two.
Yeah, and again, I was kind of debating whether I was going to bring this up, and at some point, but I said, you know what, well, fuck it, because it could come off as like, just you're just hating on the modern day fighters, and like I'm really not, but I have to hear for a while now that these guys are too big and too strong, and you know what I mean, and I don't buy that. I just don't. I think a lot of heavyweights are too muscular. A lot of heavyweights are too fat. That's what I think.
Case in point. Look what Usyk just did to AJ. Look at what Max Baer did to Primo Carnera. Look at what Jack Dempsey did to Jess Willard. I mean, it's not like a smaller heavyweight can't beat a bigger heavyweight. We've seen it before. And it tends
Tyson
to happen.
A bunch of the dudes in the 80s,
Yeah, exactly. He was tiny, dude. The guy's shorter than me.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it served him
bulldog.
well to have 2 heavyweight fights before he fought Joshua, because he wanted to jump immediately. He wanted to go from cruiserweight directly to Joshua. I think that would have been a mistake, And
yeah,
I think he
they
kind
did
of
it the right way.
Yeah, I think he did it the right way too. So anyway, brother, I gotta get rolling here, man. Any final words?
No, thanks for having me on, and I'm going to go back and listen to what you had to say before. But as soon as I saw it, I'm like, "Oh shit!" I wanted to jump on, but thank you for providing the link, and have a great day.
For sure. All right, everybody, peace out.